Hey everybody, I'm Amy. If you don't know me, I'm an artist living in Atlanta, Georgia. I do a lot of work with Bisque Imports, and I'm super excited to show you guys how to paint this trendy mug today. So let's see, make sure you guys can you hear me okay? I assume you can, because you're typing in there, right? I have myself behind me on my computer, so I'm getting to see this weird angle. Sweet. So last month I wrote a blog post for Bisque Imports, and it's all about like trend forecasting for summer. And in that I have written about like organic designs being really popular this summer, like 70s color scheme, that like warm, like beachy kind of sun-washed color being really popular, like bold lettering and lines. What else was there? Oh, like houseplants. You know, florals have kind of been a thing for a while now, but I feel like, at least in this house, houseplants are really taking over. If you look behind me, you can probably see that. And there's one other thing. Let me check my notes. Maybe that's it. So instead of just picking like one trendy thing to paint on this mug, I've decided to smush a bunch together. So I have what I'm calling the trendy mug, right? Really good name, I know. I was really struggling with the name. And we've got the organic shapes in here. We've got greenery. We've got that color palette that I'm going for, that kind of like warm with pops of the cool with the blue. Some bold lines, and yeah, I'm really pumped to paint it with you guys. So Savannah, she's here somewhere. I think she's gonna drop in the, oh, hey Ellen. Alan is going to drop in the technique sheet so you can print it out later and do it with me if you don't want to paint along with me today. That's okay, I understand. So why don't we get started? I know, so it's 5 o'clock here. I don't know where you are, but my girlfriend Elaine made me a drink for the occasion. I've got my dirty gin martini. I hope I'm not the only one drinking alone. I know that in my stories today I may be asked for you guys to bring a drink so it doesn't look like I'm a lush. Anyway, all right, so I'm just gonna jump in. I will do some breaks for some questions. If you guys have those, I'll try to keep an eye on the comments and answer any questions you have. You can ask me anything, pottery related, not pottery related, martini related, doesn't matter. All right, so that's a pretty good shot, right? So let's get this sucker down. So we're gonna be using mako glazes today. And they are old lace, a really nice kind of basic, almost like light beige, it's the background color, and jack-o'-lantern, which is an orange that I'm kind of newly obsessed with. It's pretty bright, but like on the lighter end, which I like. And then melancholy, which I've been obsessed with for a while. It's this one right here. And then tiger tail, also been obsessed with for a while. My blue heaven, which I really can't get away from. I tend to paint it on every sample that I make. And then basketball, which is a new favorite for me. It's got that like nice orangey kind of red rusty thing going on. So, all right. So you're also gonna need some brushes. When I paint, I really only use like 3 brushes, and that's gonna be like a bigger round brush, and this is gonna be my background color. A smaller round where I can get in some smaller spots. Occasionally I'll pull out a brush like this, kind of a square, smaller square situation. And then always, 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 I have a liner brush. This is my favorite brush. These are my favorite types of brushes of all time. I could not make anything without a liner brush. And I've actually pulled a few today. And when we get there, we're gonna talk about that. I won't keep y'all too late because I know we gotta like cook supper and stuff. But I do kind of want to talk about the differences between these 4 brushes. So let's get started, shall we? I'm going to ditch my live notes, which I always make, and then forget to read. I'm relatively bad at introducing myself. It makes me feel really weird. Should I do this for you guys now that I'm thinking about it? Let's see. Let's see what that looks like. Is that better or worse? I mean, you see a lot of my computer. Is that weird? We'll keep it this way. Okay. So anyway, yeah, I feel weird introducing myself always. I don't really know what to talk about. I'm supposed to say things like, I'm an artist and teacher and creative director living in Atlanta, and then I just forget to say that kind of stuff. But anyway, if you don't know who I am, you can find me on the internet and I'll tell you all about it. I'm a little low on old lace. All right, so I am what they call, they meaning I, call a textured painter, which means, all right. Well, I can always switch back if I need to. So I'm what they call a textured painter, which means it's just kind of like a nice word for messy. And if you notice, I rarely do 3 coats of anything. And I also am not really painting in the same direction. I'm doing kind of short, choppy strokes because when it fires, it's going to give me a nice texture. That I like. I think it's really kind of visually interesting. Listen, I know I did just say no. I will. Should I turn it back around? I mean, my computer's kind of boring. All right. Julian, you've won. That's just for you. And just for that, I'm going to take a sip of my drink. All right, all right. Is that better? Let me stick my hand in there. All right, and so you can see when I'm painting with texture like this, it kind of piles up. You almost get like ridges of glaze. And as that dries, it's going to give me spots that are thicker than the other spots. Where's my camera? And I think that's really interesting. So that's kind of how I'm going to leave that. Occasionally, I'll paint 3 coats. I mean, you guys are all PYOP people, so you know that if you want the most opaque, like the brightest version of the glaze, then you need to do 3 coats with letting it dry in between each coat. I like it to be a little on the transparent side. I like to kind of play with, you know, how it fires. All right, so also in the background, just to add some more complexities to today's live performance, the townhouses that surround my apartment are getting re-roofed. Re-roofed, it's a hard word for me to say. And they have been at it since early morning. And not only is it loud, it's a little distracting because these people are essentially like horizontal in the air with nail guns, and nobody's fallen off yet. I mean, they are professionals, but I know Elaine and I are having a hard time concentrating today because it's right outside the window and I just want to watch them all day. All right, so while I slap this on, I do want to point out that this is a Crafty Chica mug from the Crafty Chica Bisque line with Bisque Imports. And I am really into it. I don't typically go for a large mug because I'm bad at multitasking and I can't drink my coffee before it cools down. But this mug was so fun to paint, it may break my large mug rule. And something that she told me, which I don't know if I'm supposed to maybe not tell anybody, but the way she designed this mug, let's see. Let me move this. The way she designed this mug, she was thinking about how a traditional mug would look upside down. So let me make sure you can see it in the camera. So if this is what a traditional mug looks like, she has, there you go, she has just kind of flipped the script on it a little bit and made this. So that's some behind the scenes Crafty Chica information, which I don't even think I was supposed to tell you. I think she told it to me when it debuted at convention last year. But anyway, sorry Crafty, hope that was okay. All right, so we've got our first coat down, and it is, it's a messy coat, but again, that's how I like it. And there's so many different layers of color on this one, you probably can't even tell that I've painted it that way. A little bit on the handle, you could tell. If you were in person with me here at my house, you could tell. You could come over if you want, but you gotta wear a face mask. And let's talk about the next step. So like I wrote in my blog post with Bisque Imports, something that you're going to see really kind of jump onto a lot of like clothing and art, you know, food, I don't know, wherever trends are. You're going to see a lot of organic designs. So geometric was a thing for a really long time, but now we're kind of moving into an organic space where you're going to see shapes that are more round, a little more blobby, a lot less geometrical. Organic is the opposite, of geometric. So that's kind of where I have leaned on this project. And if you notice, I'm kind of overlapping some color and playing with what that looks like. So don't be afraid, not only to not do 3 coats, but to also overlap, because it'll give you some really cool things. So I'm gonna push the envelope just a little bit. We're a little wet in spots, but I'm gonna go ahead and lay out some color and start to show you how I do my blobby organic shapes. It is smart to lay out all the color that you're using at once, so that way you don't accidentally lean too heavily on one color. Like if I had just poured out all my Blue Heaven and that was it, then I would probably accidentally paint too many blobs of my Blue Heaven. So if you're painting along at home, or if you're just following the guide that I think Savannah has put in the comments, for my blobs here, I'm only using Melancholy, Tiger Tail, My Blue Heaven, and Jack-o'-lantern. I want to save the basketball for just the greenery, and the black obviously just for kind of detail and outline. So let's put that where y'all can see it. Right now you can only see my martini. All right, so I'm going to go to my kind of end-all be-all paintbrush, which is what I consider like a medium round, or almost like a, yeah, I consider it to be more of a medium than a small. This is one of my favorite paintbrushes. I use it for many, many things. And I'm just gonna dip into my Blue Heaven. And I put a lot of paint on my brush, like a lot of paint. And I'm just gonna come in here and give myself just a random circular shape. It's not a perfect circle. It's got kind of an edge here that almost makes it look like a heart, if you think about it, or like a weird rock. And then I also, because life's too short for boring anything, I like to paint the bottom of the mug. I know that you don't really see it, but I know it's there, so I'm always going to paint the bottom and kind of continue the design down to the bottom. So what I'm going to do is just take that blue again and kind of come up here and do the same thing. I'm trying not to repeat the exact same shapes because I do want to keep it interesting. And if you notice, I'll kind of roll my paintbrush onto the blob, and that just ensures that a lot of paint gets put down onto my piece without me having to kind of come back in and reload my brush and add more. And then let's do one more. Always, you know, keep your handles interesting. So I'm going to overlap on my handles just a little bit and try to make this one a little bit more kind of blobbier. I stay pretty circular, which I need to break out of. So that's what we're going for. So this is going to be my Blue Heaven. I'm going to sit the mug down just a second and check the comments and make sure that I haven't missed any important questions, other than me just telling you guys no, that I won't change my phone orientation. Okay, all right. Hey everybody, hey everybody. Okay, good. Project guide is up there, so you guys can print that out and do this later. You guys can drink at the studio. What are you talking about? That is not endorsed by Bisque Imports, by the way. That is just endorsed by me. Okay. Yeah, palette knife painting on canvas. Yeah, that's a great idea. All right, so we're gonna jump on ahead, and I'm gonna pick out another color, and I'll show you guys a different brush. So I'm gonna go for this square brush. This is a Duncan brush. You can get this also at Bisque Imports, one of my all-time favorite brushes. And I'm gonna dip into, let's see, I'm gonna dip into Tiger Tail. And I'm basically just gonna do exactly what I just did, but this brush is just inherently, because it's a different shape, gonna give me something a little bit different. Again, I can roll my brush into the shape and get more. I'll kind of zoom up there. There's a lot of paint in here, but then if you look right here and right here, it's really thin, so that way when it fires, it's gonna be very dark where more paint is, and you know, really transparent where there's not a lot of paint. So that's how I like to paint most things. It was born from a little bit of laziness. At my old job, I was painting for 3 studios at once, and so when you paint multiple samples for 3 studios, you can really quickly get into the dozens, and needing to, you know, having a really short turnaround time, you got to learn to paint fast, and so this was kind of born from needing to paint quickly. So it's a little bit drier right here, so I'm going to take this Tiger Tail and overlap that blue. And I'm not going to do too many coats and too many passes over that, because I want to see when it fires where it overlaps. and I want to see if I can make an interesting color that way. This is like a goldy kind of brown, so the color's not going to be like gorgeous with that blue, but it'll be interesting, and that's okay. And so now let's dip into our melancholy. And basically you're just building shapes onto this mug with these different blocks of colors. This is just a form of color blocking, which is also really popular. Will probably always be popular. And I'm gonna sweep over that tiger tail just a little bit. I mean, ideally I would let this dry a little bit in between colors, just so that way I'm not mixing too many colors onto the mug. So like, it's, you know, if I were to take melancholy and paint over this tiger tail right now, that is so wet that I'm just gonna almost like make a whole new color, which is an interesting approach and can be really cool, but not really what I want for right now. So again, in a perfect world, I would let this dry before I moved on and started overlapping too many colors, but that's okay for now. But if you paint the bottom, okay, Matt, if you paint the bottom, how do you stop it from sticking in the frying process? So if this were a piece that were not needed to be used for food, so like a statue or like a figurine or something, you can dry foot. But since this is ideally for, you know, food use, you need to stilt it. And you can find all of those in the kiln room accessory, what am I trying to say? Tab on Bisque Imports. You'll just stilt it, you'll put it on the bottom, and it'll keep it raised up from the shelf so it doesn't stick. It will leave little holes behind where the stilt was, and you just Dremel those down. That's where they are. If you don't Dremel them down, they can cut you, which is never fun. All right. All right, I'm gonna do a couple more, and then I'm gonna break out my my swap. If you've ever done a Facebook Live with me, especially a painting one, you know that I like to treat this like a food show. I've always loved Food Network. I've always loved Martha Stewart. And if you notice, they always have like multiple versions of the dish or the craft project made, so that way they can do these quick segments, you know, complete a full project in like a 3-minute segment. So they make these swaps ahead of time, and I went ahead and made one because we all got places to be. All right, so that's a pretty good start. I'm not. I forgot a whole color. So we've got Tiger Tail, we've got Melancholy, we've got My Blue Heaven. I've completely forgotten about Jack-o'-lantern. Sorry, y'all. So I'm just gonna come in here and give myself a couple of swooshes. I chose to paint the inside of my mug Jack-o'-lantern. I have a hard time painting the same thing twice, so on this one I might do a different color. Don't tell anybody. All right, and let's overlap here. Let's overlap a few here. All right, so I've got all 4 of my blob colors on. You could go back and do another coat after this dries. I'm not gonna, because like I said, I really like the texture of where we're at here. So I'm gonna put this to the side, and nope, I lied to you. I'm not gonna put that to the side. Actually, I am. All right, so here we are with a little bit, this has probably been drying for like an hour. It's so muggy in Atlanta that it's still a little bit damp, but that's okay. And I've gone ahead and done some of the vines that are on this original one, and I'm gonna do a few more. This definitely will need to dry before I attempt to do that on here. It'll just get a little bit messy. So I'm gonna show you beside these already finished ones. So again, these are done in basketball. And this is where we're gonna talk about our 3 liner brushes for a second. Technically 4, but they're all the same. So when I work, I use these 3 liner brushes constantly. So this is a 10-0 liner brush. This one's from Mako. This is a really great thin liner brush. I do a lot of my lettering with this one, especially if I'm working on a small piece. So today I was working on a kind of a salad size plate, and when it came time for me to do the lettering, I reached for this one. This is also a super favorite of mine. You can find it on Bisque Imports. It's a Royal Lagerfeld. It's their Moderna collection. It's also a 10-0, a 10/0. So these are technically the same size, but they're just a little bit different, and you're gonna find differences like that kind of depending on the company that you go with. This one to me is just a little bit fatter, so I really like this one for like outlines and stuff, but I if I'm gonna do really tight lettering, I'm gonna use that small brush. This is gonna give me really thin controlled lines. This is a 5-0, an aqua line. You can also find this in Bisque Imports. This is my favorite lettering brush for now, hint, hint. There may be some things coming. For now, this is my favorite liner brush. It's called my Bay brush. If you've ever taken a lettering class with me at convention or at a ceramic jam or something, this is my go-to all the time. If I can only pick one liner brush to have forever, it's gonna be this size. And this is a 1. It's just bigger, as you can see. So it's just gonna give me bigger results. If I were working on like a really big platter or even a canvas, I'm gonna go for this one because I just need it to hold more paint. So that's kind of my rundown on liner brushes. They will give you something different when it comes to making little vines, little laurel shapes like this. So let's talk about that now. So I'm gonna pull this smaller one out. This is the Mako one. You can find this on Bisque Imports website. And I'm gonna grab my basketball. Sorry, I'm running low on everything. And with any liner brush, no matter what size, no matter who makes it, I always dip the bristles in some water first. And that's just gonna help me thin down the color that I'm working with and just make it last longer. I'll be able to pull a longer line. I'll have more control. It won't splay my brushes quite so easily. And so I just load up my brush, and then liner brushes like this work on pressure. So the lighter I press, the thinner my line is gonna be. Whereas, just show you on the same line, the harder I press, the thicker it's gonna be. So you can have a lot of control that way. That's how you get a lot of that thick downstrokes, thin upstrokes when you're doing lettering. And then, so this is where I feel like these brushes really shine in a non-lettering way. You can get some really great shapes when you start playing around with what direction you're painting in, how much pressure you're applying, when you're letting off of the pressure. So here I'm pressing down, and then on my way in, I'm pulling up really slowly. And that's gonna give me a really nice leaf or petal shape. I do a lot of my flowers that way. And I'll show you that again. So I'm pressing down and then pulling up as I get closer to that kind of middle vine. So I'm just gonna pull down and continue to do that. You can change the direction that you're painting. You can add a little bit of curve to it if you want. These are all really kind of perfectly placed, which bothers me a little bit. When I'm trying to multitask, I don't always paint exactly the way that I want to paint. And so that top is kind of bothering me. I'm just gonna come in here and act like that never happened. You can overlap, make it a little more natural to overlap those leaves together, and boom. So that's gonna be my 10-0 liner, 10-0. And then now I'm gonna pull out my 5 and we'll come at it from a different direction. I keep trying to stick my brush into my water glass, my drinking water, not just my, you know, pickle jar water. So same thing, this one's a little bit bigger than the 10-0. This is the 5-0, is it? Yeah, it's the 5-0, sorry. And I'm just gonna come from the bottom, I'm pressing really lightly. And so whereas last time we went from the outside in, I want to talk about going from the stem out. So let me get a good grip on this bad boy. Maybe we'll just set it down. All right, so we went from the outside in on the last one, so let's go from the stem out. So let me make sure you can see. Okay, so I'm pressing down. I'm doing the opposite, kind of where I went fat at the bottom and let off as I painted outward, and I got a nice skinny point. To me, it looks a little more natural if you do leaves this way. So this is what I try to do if I'm not painting on something with an outline. This would be a little bit harder to outline if I chose to do that on these. So I'm pressing down, pulling up, starting at the stem, pressing down, pulling up. And I'm just gonna do that until I get to the bottom. And you know, because I'm extra, everybody knows that, I would actually usually kind of pull down. This is too much, you guys, but anyway, I would pull down here and kind of repeat this all the way to the bottom of the mug. I can't help it, you guys, I can't help it. I have to. All right, and so let me show you this last one, which is the 1 script liner. So this is the biggest. I'm actually probably gonna jump back to this one. It's got a little bit more space on it. Yeah, so it's really dry in here, so I'm gonna use my 1 on this. So same thing, dipping it into the water, dipping the bristles into the water, and kind of thinning down that basketball, loading my paintbrush. I'm gonna come from the bottom. Typically, when you paint greenery, grass, flowers, anything like that, you wanna paint in the direction that it grows. So starting from like thin air and trying to come down to like the base or the ground is not technically correct. I try to always start from the bottom and come up. So again, this is the largest liner that we're working with. So out of the gate, we've already got a pretty thick stem. If I were to do this on, if I were to just pick one liner to do one mug with, I would stick with the 5, that second one that we used. And I'll tell you why in just a second. So let's do a mix. So we're gonna start from the outside and go in. Start from the outside and go in. Now we're gonna come from the inside and go out. This is just gonna be a confused leaf. And that's okay. We all get a little confused. I feel like that was a very, oh God, what's his name? I'm blanking. Happy Little Trees. Oh my God, did I just forget his name? All I can think is Bob Saget. It's not a Bob Saget thing. What's his name? Somebody tell me. Good Lord. Alicia, I'm just saying this. Hey DJ, give Alicia back her phone. Thank you, Bob Ross. God, what am I thinking over here? All right, so let's go from the stem outward. Stem outward. Do you guys have a preference on leaf styles? Do you like a kind of fatter situation like this one, or do you like when it's pointier at the end? I go back and forth. It kind of depends on what I'm working on. All right, so I'm gonna take just a second and look at some comments real fast. Have a sip of my drink. Thanks, Corey. She's on the mat situation. Good. Good. Lulu's here. Stephanie, it's 10 o'clock in the UK. 10:30, I guess, technically. Thank you for being here. I would be on the couch watching TV, but okay, let's see. All right, I'm gonna let Corey handle the mat situation. Matt, if you need me, you let me know. Corey's doing an excellent job. All right. So does anybody need to see any more of the liner brushes just to make the vines part? Thanks, Christina. I'll do one more and then we're gonna outline some stiff. So I'll do it with the number 5, which is my preferred for this situation. And we'll come from the top this time. So I could get really carried away with doing stuff like this. And I have a mug that I've made for Bisque Imports last month. I actually did a bunch of these on one and kind of overlapped them and did some lettering on top, and it was really nice. For the sake of this design, I'm doing something a little bit different because I'm adding some black detail to it. So I don't want to go overboard with the vines because I don't want to feel stuck to having to outline everything. And again, in a perfect world, we'd let this dry a little bit more because I just continue to stick my hand in everything. I have to splatter everything that I paint with black because I'm just kind of a messy painter, and that makes everything look intentional. That's my secret of the day. So I just did a method where my big fat hand was in the way. You probably couldn't see it. You can go a 2-stroke to do. We've been doing a bunch of 1-strokes of leaves like this one. So there's 1 stroke. But if you want, you can take your liner brush and you can start from the outside and go 1 stroke. And then you can come again on the other side and do a 2-stroke method. And that's also really lovely to make some nice flowers that are really textured, because when that is fired, you'll get areas that are really dense with paint, so it'll be really dark, and then you'll get areas that are light and so nice and transparent. And notice I'm moving the mug constantly. I'm not trying to like contort myself to fit around the mug. I'm making the mug do the work for me. You're the boss of the pottery, you guys, not the other way around. Let's put one here. And let's put one here. All right. Good. Hey, DJ, you gave Alicia her phone back. I'm so glad. All right, so let's move over on to this one. One of the other things that I talked about, one of the other topics of kind of trend forecasting, it's always going to be bold lines, you know, bold black lines like you see here, and then this kind of mark making. I've noticed a lot, I spend a lot of time on Pinterest, get a lot of inspiration there, excuse me, and there's a lot of situations like this where you see some really cool mark making, and it will be like a whole pattern of stuff like that, or just like really simple black dots. So I wanted to incorporate something that was a little different than, I do a bunch of dashes constantly. You'll see in all of my, a lot of my samples on my Instagram page, I do a lot of dashes, but I wanted to kind of float away from that a little bit and try something new. So I tried these almost like scribble marks. I've done some outlining on some of these organic shapes, but something that I see and really like a lot on Pinterest is when people do like an outline, like a really bold, nice outline, but it is a little bit skewed from the shape that they are technically outlining. It's one of my favorite things to do, and you'll see I've done it in all of the vines here, and then I've gone to do it in a few of the shapes. So I decided not to do every single shape because I think it would get a little confusing and take away from the design. So let's go to our more dried one. And remember, you know, you want to paint the inside. I'm not going to bore you with painting the inside, but I chose jack-o'-lantern for this one. I actually think for this one, I'm going to do maybe basketball. Or maybe I'll throw a curveball and do like one I didn't even, like a color I didn't even pick out to begin with. Who knows? All right, so let's kind of go to our really dry side, and I'll show you a couple of ways that you can do this. So if you're feeling kind of nervous to do pencil to pottery, or I'm sorry, to do paint to pottery, you can always cheat by doing a pencil. And here, I want to shift everything over, right? I don't want to exactly outline this piece. One, because that would be boring, but also it'd be kind of hard. So I'm going to take my pencil and just kind of mimic everything that I already did. And pencil burns away in the kiln. It fires, this could be a total lie, but I always heard that it fires away at like 600 degrees, and this is going to get to almost 2000 degrees. So if you're not too heavy-handed, these pencil marks are going to disappear. So again, I'm just going to come down here and basically mimic exactly what I've painted, but it's shifted to the right or the left a little bit. So we put these in with our number 5. Our 5-0 script liner. So I want to come in and do a little more daintier outline with our 10-0. So this is the 10/0. This is the Mako Reflection script liner. Sorry, I use it all the time. So the number is, actually I think it's just RB110. You can find that on the Bisque Imports website. It's a really great small liner. So I'm going to pour out some tuxedo. I'm going to do what I've been doing all along. Dip those bristles into some water to thin down my paint. Again, that's just going to help it go a little bit further. And I'm going to load my brush, and then I'm just going to paint over what I did with my pencil just now. So starting from the bottom. And instead of filling in the leaves like we did with the basketball, I want to keep this just the outlines. So I'm just going to take my brush. And again, it's all about pressure. The harder you kind of bear down on this brush, the fatter your lines are going to be, and the lighter you bear down, the thinner your line's going to be. So I know my fat hand's in the way. Let me figure out a way to not have my hand. Let's see. So my camera's here. There's a delay on my screen, so I can't exactly tell, so maybe let's try this one. So pressing down hard to get something thick, and then letting away as I get to the top and get a nice beautiful point. Hopefully y'all can see that. Yeah, you can see that. And then I'm just going to keep repeating it. And again, I'm so bad about like mapping something out with a pencil and then just never actually painting over the pencil lines. It's almost like the pencil is just like a practice run for me. If I were like more careful, I would paint exactly where I've penciled, but it's just not me. I'm gonna make some a little bit bigger. I've already messed up here and kind of overdid it on that line, which is great because then I'll just start my leaf where I messed up just a little bit. And we're going to bring it all the way down to the bottom. Good. So we're going to do it again over here. Let me try to get my hand out of the way. I've already smushed, see, smushed that one, but that's okay. You can always fix pottery. It used to really just freak me out when in my old job in a studio, when people would mess up their piece of pottery and they would just take it immediately to the sink and dunk it under running water, and you're like, no, like everything goes into slow motion. You're trying to run after them. You're like, no, no, please don't do that. Pottery's always fixable. Don't do that, you guys. I mean, sometimes you have to, but let it thoroughly dry out before you start painting on that thing again. Okay. So you can see this this paintbrush is nice and thin. It's giving me nice thin lines. I will actually show you on the other one if I did this with a 5.0 liner. Just be a little bit thicker. All right, so let's come over here and I'll show you with a 5. So here's my 5. Dip it into some water, load my brush up. And we're gonna go over to the side just a little bit. So automatically thicker. And it's really almost kind of like blasting out the little delicate leaves behind it. It's not a bad look, it's definitely bold. It's a little bit bolder than maybe what I want for this piece. But again, it's not bad. I'm gonna try to vary my brush or my leaf shapes a little bit, so because they're just so perfect, like two, and I don't want to keep doing that, so I'm going to come down just a little bit from where I had made that last one. All right, so pretty thick, right? I mean, this is, I did this one with a 10.0 liner. So this compared to this, there's a pretty big difference, don't you think? As you can probably see, yeah. So if it were me, I would stick with maybe a 5.0 liner to do your leaves with, and then a 10.0 to outline everything. But again, that's just my personal preference. So let me check these. Check these again. Yeah, these black leaves were done with a 10.0. These right here. All of my outlining here was a 10.0. And you can go thick on it, you know, you just gotta work a little bit harder. Cool. I don't know, Amy, sometimes I ain't outside the lines too. I think that was a pretty perfect typo. All right, so let's play with circling some of these shapes. The way that I like to do this is I like to find a shape that is uninterrupted by leaves, and then kind of focus on that. I could, you know, come behind this and maybe not fully complete my shape, and we'll do that on that one just to see what it looks like, because why not experiment? So loading up my liner, and I'm going to find this melancholy shape, and instead of following it perfectly, I'm just gonna skew it just a little bit. And it comes down to the bottom. So we are thinning our paint. Sorry, let me get that a little bit. We are thinning our paint down to help it travel further, like we talked about. And it, yeah, of course, it is gonna fire a little bit lighter in those spaces. It is just barely noticeable. Like I can tell here, just kind of right here, that's a pretty thin downed coat. But that's okay with me. If that's not okay with you, then all you got to do is after that dries, the keyword, it needs to dry. You just want to come back behind it and do it again. So, you know, a lot of the time that's going to fatten up your line a little bit. You know, people have that trouble when they're lettering. That's okay. But that is going to fatten up a pretty good amount. So there's my shape fully outlined. I love how it goes over the handle like that. I think that's super interesting. Life's too short for boring. Now let's do one where it is a little less complete. So we're going to start it over here, follow the shape of this My Blue Heaven blob, but because it has leaves in the way, we're not going to fully complete it, just to see what that looks like. I don't hate it. I really don't. So here's another relatively uninterrupted one. So I'm going to take my liner and just do kind of a free black outline. So you guys get the gist, right? We're finding shapes and then we are outlining them, but not exactly following the shape that we painted in originally. So Christina, eventually, yes, I will teach lettering again. It's my favorite thing in the world. Yeah, we'll teach some lettering. Not on this, not in this rodeo, but pretty soon. So let me show you, let's do one more. I'm gonna switch to a 10-0 liner, again, just to show you the difference in sizes. What time is it? It's only been 45 minutes, you guys, that's pretty good. We usually talk way more. Let's do an outline. Oh my God, thank you. I'm assuming that's Savannah that's loving my nails. I didn't get them done all throughout quarantine. I've been really adamant about not going places and trying to keep myself and my family healthy. But my nail salon did a soft opening. They were just kind of texting clients to let them know, you know, all the strict guidelines and asking if they wanted to come back. And I just imagined that they looked at their list and they thought, who spends the most money here? And they immediately called me. They're like, hey, we're doing a soft opening. Do you want to come in? And, you know, it'll be super socially distanced and all that good stuff. Crazy clean. They take your temperature, all that good stuff. And I was like, yeah, of course. So to make up for the weeks and weeks and weeks of not getting my nails done, I chose 5 colors instead of just one. And I love it. I'm trying to go for like a trashy Malibu Barbie. That's what I am in my head. Alright, so got my 10-0 liner. Kind of flubbed up that end just a little bit. Don't like it. Ugh. Let's fix it. Sorry if my hand's in the way. And then we're going to come down here. We're going to do an outline. And let's continue it to this side. So again, this is the 10-0 liner. When pressed hard, not hard, but when you apply some pressure to it, it'll give you a nice thick line. And that's sitting beside a 5-0 liner. So, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, are these pretty similar? Yeah, absolutely. I'm just trying to sell you some brushes. No, I'm kidding. I believe that there are different purposes for these. All right, so the last thing I'm gonna show you guys, no, next to last thing, actually. I'm gonna take my thin little liner brush, dip it into some thinned black paint, and I'm gonna add those hash marks. And you know, typically, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I like to do, I'll show you on all of them. I like to do little dashes like this. I think it's super cute, add some interest. It's also a really easy way to kind of learn how your brush works and learn about pressure and what kind of marks that it'll give you. But I wanted to try to challenge myself to do something a little bit different. So I came to this piece and I'm doing something that kind of reminds me of Saved by the Bell, where it's like zigzags almost. And then I'm just gonna come in and maybe thicken that up just a little bit. And I love that. I think it's, a little something different. Add some interest into that area. You can do them really close together and get something that's a little bit more like, you know, like that. Almost like it was embroidered on there. A whole mug of embroidery. It's a great idea if somebody wants to paint that. And then let's try it again, just kind of a little bit thicker. So I think that's a really cool way to add some frenzy to your piece. This is what it's gonna look like fired. And then of course, the next to last thing, I keep saying last thing and then realizing I'm not done. I moved my drink out of the way because as you can probably guess, I'm going to do a little bit of splattering. There's a couple different ways you can do it. I'll show you both. So I'm taking a brush and I'm dipping it into my, let me scoot back. Oh no, I guess I can't scoot back. I'm dipping it into some thinned black paint, and then I'm just gonna bring it on top of my piece, give it a nice tap, and it'll give me some really beautiful splatters. But you can also let's take this brush. We're gonna use just a nice flat situation. Dip it into our thinned black paint, nice and loaded. Take our pointer finger and then start flicking. This will give you a variety of splatters, different shapes, like some really small ones versus some really big ones. The thinner you thin your paint, the more out of control it's gonna get. You might get some like lines instead of splatters. Like here, those are some lines. That's also because I'm doing it downwards. Let me show you inside the bowl too. Mug, bowl, whatever this thing is called. Voila, nicely splattered. Yeah, your finger's gonna get dirty, but that's why you wear an apron or just do laundry all the time. I don't know. So we're gonna flip this bad boy upside down. I know I said I was gonna, I'm not gonna talk about lettering, but we'll talk about lettering just a little bit. Yes, hey friend. I painted the inside of the mug while I was waiting for everything to dry. So I would probably paint it in between the outline and the leaves right here. Only because like while this is unpainted in here, it's gonna help things dry a little bit faster for me. So if I were to paint this like right after the blobs, it would have just taken a little bit longer for everything to dry. That's just me trying to be a little bit smarter about time. But yeah, I would paint this before you do any of the black. It's just gonna go a lot smoother, I think. So you must always sign the bottom of your pieces. And I'm just gonna kind of pencil on my name here. And I do a pencil solely just to figure out my bearings. If I were to try to freehand this with a paintbrush and paint, that A is gonna be really tiny and the second M is gonna be huge and it's gonna be a nightmare. So I'm gonna come in, I'll show you this liner. This is the Royal Moderna 10-0. So it's a smaller, and it's a little bit fatter than the Mako one. So I'm just gonna show you all my liners today. I wish you guys could all come over and we just talk about brushes for 6 hours, but I don't think we can do that. So I got it nice and loaded up. I'm gonna come over here. And notice every letter, almost every time I take it away from the bisque. Sorry, let me maybe, let's see, can we get closer? Meryl, the black doesn't bleed, probably because I'm not thinning it down like crazy. She asked, how does the black not bleed? If you mean glazing, maybe, like maybe when you're dipping it in clear glaze, just make sure everything's super, super dry before you start doing that. All right, what's this angle like? You can see my belly. Let's see. It's pretty good. Or maybe worse, who knows? I don't know. Let's see. So, I'm gonna come back in. It's hard for me to talk and do this at the same time. But notice I am reloading my brush every time I pick it up off of the piece of bisque. Remember to breathe. I always kind of forget to breathe. Let's put a year down here. If you've been following me for any amount of time, you know that I really like to put a part of the design into the year. And so 2019 was a gorgeous year for me because I could turn that 0 or that 1 into anything. And 2020's proven to be a little bit harder, you know, in many ways. I think we're all noticing. So what I'm gonna do then is just kind of give myself a wacky organic 0. See, I've already stuck my hand in it, so I gotta splatter everything. And then we'll do, there we go. All right. All right, so it's 5:53. We've kept this under an hour. I love it. Do you guys have any questions while we're still here? I still have almost my entire martini left, so we can talk if you want to talk. You guys are welcome. I really appreciate, promise I've only had like 4 sips of that. I really appreciate you guys sticking around this with me. I really enjoyed that. Again, the technique sheet, Bisque Imports has that. You can get that if you want to paint along with me later. I did have some things that I wanted to go over while I have you here, so don't leave. I see you, don't leave. The first thing is this. It's summer, as you may know. I don't know if you know. It's time for summer camps to start happening. I see a lot of you doing virtual summer camps, which is incredible. That also means that you can get something up really quickly if you maybe weren't planning to do one. And this is when I remind you that I did a 5-week-long summer camp guide with Bisque Imports. You can find that on their homepage, pretty sure it's on their homepage. It's a picture of my face, so you won't miss it. It's volume 7, lucky number 7. It's 25 projects that I love. I really love them, you guys. I should be better about promoting them. I'm gonna start doing that. So I see a lot of you guys on Instagram have already found those, and I'm loving seeing you guys incorporate those into your weeks. So if you're feeling kind of overwhelmed by summer camp, or if you haven't done one before, go to that guide, because I tell you all of my tips and tricks. You've got like full planned projects, you've got templates, all that stuff. And I taught summer camp for like 5 miserable, beautiful years. If you ever need to reach out for me and ask me a question or kind of the logistics of something, please feel free. The second thing, there's more. I wrote this down, so let me check my notes. Okay, so I do monthly projects with Bisque Imports. If you have been following me for a while, you know that, or maybe you're new to Bisque Imports or you're new to me. Hi, good to see you. I do at least 1 project a month for Bisque Imports, and you can find those like a process video on their YouTube or their IGTV on their Instagram page. You can also go to their resources tab on their website, and you'll find all of those technique sheets. There's easily 15 of those, maybe 20 of those. So if you need like a workshop, or you need a sampler, you need some inspiration, go do those. They're there for you. They're free for you. What else? Project guide. Okay, last thing. I'm going to do some shameless self-promoting. I have a subscription service geared towards paint your own pottery studios. It's called Good for Y'all. Each month you get a project available for download. It is a fully planned out project for you. There's the project guide, and there is the design template. There's always a lettering template. Lately I've been providing you with alternate sayings for the project and also lettering those, which is really fun. And then there is a color conversion chart. So no matter what color you use, it could be Garrett, it could be Mako, it could be Duncan, I'm going to give you the color conversion charts for those. And depending on the tier that you choose, I also will supply you with, there's the word, marketing material, so you can promote that project. And see, what I was supposed to do is I was supposed to get this month's project so that you could see it, right? And then I forgot to get it. So you guys want to see it? You guys want to see me get up from my chair and go get it? It's just right behind me. I'm gonna go get it. Okay, sorry. Oh, Martha, I'm so sorry. Okay. Oh. guys see that? Oh, you could. It's terrible. You guys weren't supposed to see that. All right. So June's Good For Y'all project is all about the houseplants, as you can see behind me. I like me a house plant. So this is the exclusive project for members, subscribers of my subscription service. So I provide you with this, the template, the colors that you need, and it's ready to go on your website immediately. So that you can find on my website, which is ammiewilliams.com. Thank you, Bisque Imports, for letting me say that. I appreciate that. And lastly, you can find me on Instagram at @ammiewall. You can find me on Facebook at @ammiewall. You can find Bisque Imports here, as well as Bisque Imports on Instagram. And please make sure you're looking there, because they are an incredible resource for all things paint your own pottery. You know? All right. I love y'all. Thank you, Corey. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I guess I'm going to go. I could do this all night long, but I won't. The video will be up for viewing afterwards. So if you want to ask me a question and this is not live, just shoot me an email at ammiewall@gmail.com or find me on the internet. Okay. Bye, guys.